Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to be reviewing Packing for Mars, The Curious Science of Life in the Void by Mary Roach. Now, I've read some of Mary Roach's work in the past, and she wrote the book Stiff, which is The Curious Life of a Cadaver, which deals with how cadavers are used in the modern world. And it was a very good book, and I highly recommend that book. I think is excellent. And because of the fact that she's very good at talking about touchy subjects, she's not afraid to get herself dirty and get into the mud and talk about the details, the nitty-gritty of something that most authors would avoid. So when this takes this topic on, which is about our space program and specifically how we keep human beings alive and functioning when they are in space and hopefully eventually on Mars, she isn't shy about getting right into the nitty-gritty, talking about things like sex, food, defecation. Lots of talk about defecation in this book because that's a major feature of living in the void. How do you defecate? What do you do with it? And how do you avoid problems? Because without gravity, defecation becomes much more difficult. She also talks a lot to real astronauts and cosmonauts. A lot of historical data in here. There's some nice collection of little quirky pictures here and there in the book, which is nice. I always enjoy photographs and illustrations in nonfiction books. I think they add a lot to what you have, and I like when they're interspersed as opposed to like have little sections, like one section of pictures and then halfway through the book there's another little section of pictures. I prefer to have them interspersed so that you are reading the chapter that is talking about that topic at the moment. Also, Mary Roach uses footnotes at the bottom of the page, which I love her for. I hate having footnotes at the back and end of the book because I'm never going to look them up. So when they're when she's talking about something and she's having a footnote at the bottom of the page, I'm going to read them and I'm going to understand the pertinent references right there when it makes sense to have them. So kudos to Mary Roach. But she's a lively conversationalist, and that's very much how this book comes across, as a conversation. Admittedly, one-sided, but it's like someone's talking to you, which I very much enjoy, and it flowed so nicely, and it was a joy to read. And her little witty asides and her own personal anecdotes. For example, she did a number of the things that, from some of the training exercises of things that some of the astronauts have done. And so she actually tried to get into one of the isolation programs where they put you into a simulated space environment for X number of days to see how you do. Interestingly, she flunked out, and she flunks out in a way that she thinks was part of the test. While waiting for the callback, they call her at like 4:30 in the morning and wake her up. She is less than thrilled to be woken up at 4:30 in the morning, and she gets kicked from the program. And she believes she got kicked from the program because of how she reacted at being called at 4:30 in the morning. Because they called and asked her questions and wanted to see, how do you react when you're asleep? Can you be clear-headed? Can you be civil? Can you be on task? Even when you are incredibly and utterly tired? And the answer, in Mary Roach's case, was she can't. Because they need people who just say, what do you need? Because that's what they need in space. You can't have a lot of drama. Drama is bad. Drama leads to death. So you need people who very much can focus and can compartmentize things occasionally. Frankly, it's an unhealthy way of thinking and being, if you can, and it will be difficult to do for long term. But you need to do it in a mission where a screw up could not only cost you your life, but the lives of everyone else on that vessel with you. So I really enjoyed the book. The information was fascinating. I asked my wife if she was interested in reading this. I was like in the first or second chapter, and she said yes. So it drove me nuts because I couldn't talk to her about it. There's all kinds of things in here I wanted to talk to my wife about, but I didn't want to spoil the book for her. So she's going to be reading this book next. Well, I'm gonna give it to her, put her in her reading queue. She doesn't read quite as quickly as I do, so it takes her a little bit longer to get through books. But I really recommend this, and I recommend Stiff. She also wrote Spook, which is a book I did not like as much because she did not buy into the book. And it was a talk about, essentially Spook was about ghosts and the afterlife. Because you could tell from her tone that she was not a true believer. And so there was a distance there that didn't exist in Stiff and in Packing for Mars. And she also has one called Bonk, which I have not read. I'm going to have to look that up and see if I can find a cheap copy in the secondary market. But definitely worth your time, particularly if you have an affection for the space program like I do. I grew up in the heyday of the space program. I can remember when moon launches were important, and that was a big thing, and then that was our first step, and then it went away. So if you enjoy history and you enjoy the space agencies of the world and their talk of hopefully getting us to Mars someday, you will enjoy Packing for Mars.